Scottish Football Zone special following Scotland in World Cup qualifying.
Hi, hello, very good evening to you, and welcome to a Saturday night special of the Scottish Football Zone, covering Scotland tonight against Greece in the World Cup qualifying. Well, can we make it? Well, I don't know. So get your comments coming in. We'll be on the roughly about till 7:30 before the kickoff. So get your comments coming in before the game. And also we'll have a wee insight into the Greece camp, and also we'll give you the team news ahead of tonight's game. But before we do that, we're joined by my Euro co-hosts. Ethan is coming up very soon. Reagan, how are you?
I'm not bad, Michael. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. Are you looking forward to the 90 minutes tonight? A nervous 90 minutes?
Yeah, Michael, that's what I was just about to say. I'm not looking forward to it, to be honest, mate. I'm dreading it. I just want to take a point and run for there.
Yeah, well, obviously you've dived into the end of the show before, because I'll be asking for your predictions later on in the show. So I think Reagan's given us a wee insight there to what his predictions are going to be. The team news will be out very soon, and they want to hazard a guess and say Craig Gordon will be in goals.
Yeah, I think you will, Michael. I think you will for that experience. I'll try and bring you the team news as quickly as possible for the people watching in the chat. I just think he'll start because of his experience in these big matches. No offence to Scott Bain or to Kelly. I think they're two very great number ones in their own right. But I just don't think in a game of this magnitude they should be playing, because it's a massive match for Scotland. And I think Craig Gordon's got that experience, Michael.
Yeah, no, I know. I know what. I mean, Scott Bain's had a good season for Falkirk, but I know what you mean because going to a kind of. Well, I don't know if it would be a hostile atmosphere, but it's a very important game for Scotland tonight.
Yeah, it is, Michael, and I'm very much looking forward to it, to see how Scotland react to it, Michael, because I think it's so important that we do react and that we do get a positive from the game.
Do you think that there'll be a Scott and Bev in the team for Roland Shankland?
I think there will be, Michael. I'm just going to tell you the Greek team, Michael. Well, I'm not actually going to, because it's very hard to pronounce them all, but it's a very strong team from what I'm thinking. I'll try. Michael, I've got some breaking news in terms of Scotland.
Oh, there we go, Reagan. Yeah.
Craig Gordon does start.
Oh, Craig Gordon start.
Yeah, I've got the Scotland team here for you, Michael.
Okay, on you go, mate.
It's Craig Gordon. It's my favourite Grant Hanley. It's Suter, Robertson, John McGinn, Ryan Christie, Lewis Ferguson, Scott McTominay, Ben Gannon Doak, Che Adams, and Aaron Hickey. On the bench for Scotland is Scott Bain, Tierney, Dykes, Jack Henry, Barron, Scott McKenna, George Hurst, Shankland, Ralston, and Kerry McLean. I'll just run you through that Scott lineup again. It's Craig in goal. It's Grant Hanley, Suter, Robertson, Ryan Christie, John McGlynn, Ben Gannon Doak, Scott McTominay, Che Adams, and Aaron Hickey.
So there you go. Get your comments coming in. Graham's not very happy with that team, Reagan. Are you along the same lines? And I mean, I did ask you a minute ago about Roland Shankland. While we make the team, he didn't make the team. He's a sub, but I think it would still be disappointed.
Yeah, I think the point here, Michael. I think that that the person's making here, Michael, a 42-year-old is playing for Scotland, right? Now I get all that, Michael, but his experience is brilliant. I mean, it's okay saying, right, well Scott Bain's going to play, but Scott Bain's had no experience to play for Scotland, so you don't want to throw him into a match of this magnitude. So I think it's so important that Steve Clarke has done that because I mean I'd just be failed to know if Scott Bain made a big error for Scotland tonight. Everybody in the country would be absolutely mourning Steve Clarke. Michael, what I just want to ask you in terms of that lineup, what do you make of it?
Yeah, well, I'm a bit kind of I'm not actually sure, but I think it's the same old way kind of Stevie Clarke. I think he should give Mitch a wee bit because it's a kind of big game as well. And I know I keep going on this show about Lauren Shankland and probably Graham might be biased, but he's allowed to be biased because he's a Hearts fan. But I think that going into these kind of games, you want to start your best players, and he started to score goals this season for Hearts as well. So
Yeah,
I think we'd be very disappointed as well. But adding on to the back of that, Regan, I think that he would be annoyed if he comes on with kind of 5 minutes to go in the game.
yeah, I'm interested on this point as well, Michael, because he says that he would rather Scott Bain or Kelly, right? Now, I can totally value his point and fair play to him for that, but I just think that these two players have got no experience of playing at that level, and this is a massive match for Scotland tonight because I don't know you, Michael, but I don't fancy if Scotland get to the playoffs that they will get through because it's two matches, a semi-final and a first leg and a second leg, and then you've got a first leg and a second leg for the final. So we've got a possible 4 matches to go through. So I think this is our only chance of going through, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm going to think that an old dinosaur here, Reagan, right? But a final should be a one-off game. I don't know why they've actually they actually dig it kind of like over 2 legs. But yeah, back to your point. It's not about players not having any experience whatsoever coming into basically the Lions' den for tonight's game. It's all about experience as well. And I know Greece has got nothing to play for, and we'll hear from the Greek journalists in a minute. But I think that if the place is off for them, they'll be saying, well, we're not going to qualify, but let's go out and build a kind of momentum for the next Nations League, and they might put come out all guns blazing, trying to win the game, even though there's nothing at stake for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing for us, looking at that Greece squad, they've still got a lot of good players in there.
Yeah.
I think of Pavlidis, who was a great player against Rangers in the Champions League qualifier. So I think he's someone. Obviously, we've got the Simicas from Liverpool, and we've got a few players in there that definitely, if Scotland are not on their toes, they can definitely cause us problems. I do think it's a good idea for Steve Clarke, though, that he's not playing McLean, Michael, because I think he was too loyal to him.
Yeah.
I do like that he's got Ben Gannon Doak and he's got Ryan Christie as well, because they're two forward-thinking players.
Yeah, especially kind of like away from home as well. I know that it might be a different atmosphere there over tonight, but it doesn't matter. You're playing away from home against a good team that hasn't qualified for the World Cup. So yeah, I mean it's good to put them in for a bit more of a experience. By the way, Reagan, in case anybody is interested in the game, it's 84 minutes gone. It's Liechtenstein 0, Wales 1 in that game as well. Well, we'll come back in a minute and build up to the game, Reagan. But yesterday I sat down with a Greek journalist, Stephen, who's talking about the game tonight, and here's our chat about the game. The position that they can't qualify for the World Cup in America. Just firstly, before we get into the kind of like nuts and bolts, just tell me about first of all, how disappointed you are as a Greek football fan, but also what's the mood been like back in Greece in terms of like the media?
Yeah, personally, obviously, it's very disappointing. It's not something we're unfamiliar with at this point. It's 6 tournaments in a row now that Greece haven't qualified for, and it's 12 years, as I say, 12 years of hurt. Once we get to the next major tournament, that being the European Championships, it will equal the longest time Greece has gone between tournaments for not qualifying. If we don't reach Euro 2028, that will beat the record. So we hope that to get to that one in the Britain and Republic of Ireland, and yeah, it's I think there was, I think from my point of view, there was never an expectation of we are going to qualify. We don't have to worry. We knew that this team was young and had a bit of an experience, but we hoped that we would at least push to the very last to qualify and at least reach the playoffs, and that didn't happen. We went out with a bit of a whimper, to be quite frank. Despite the fact we have talent in our team that's up and coming, despite the fact we have experienced players, and despite having Ivan Jovanovic, who I still think is a very capable manager, we weren't able to do it in the big moments where Denmark and Scotland could. And that's why we find ourselves in this position where we are in third place. And I mean, funnily enough, only 3 points ahead of Belarus. Not that I'm too worried about that, but the important thing is we're not going to the World Cup in the US, and it's a big shame because there's a big Greek community, especially in the US. I think it's the biggest outside of Greece, and so that's really disappointing for them, especially in terms of Greece. Fans in Greece and people I've spoken to online, obviously they're hugely disappointed. Some have called for the manager to be sacked. Some believe the manager's the right choice. Some people believe that some players should be moved on. Others should see that. I think that other players should be brought in. So it's just kind of gone back to that chaos of everyone blaming everyone and everything. And there's a general frustration because, like I said, this team's really talented and we wanted to see them at a major tournament, and especially the one that's next summer.
I was looking at Greece's record, and you've only scored 7 goals so far in the tournament, and that's pretty low for kind of like Greece. And obviously you alluded to that the last time you guys appeared was 2014, while Scotland was at the Commonwealth Games. You were at the Euros, but also you won the Euros back in 2004. Now I'm guessing that you might have not have been around by that time, or maybe you were, but it's I mean, it's a long time for a brilliant football nation like Greece not to make any kind of not to make the Euros.
Yeah, I mean, I was old enough to remember 2004 by the celebrations, but I wasn't old enough or interested enough in football to really engage with it. So it's a bit of a shame on my part that I never witnessed like at first hand what happened. But I remember the partying. I do remember that at the very least. And kind of once I started to get more into football, it was kind of remembering what that team had achieved. And I did get to see kind of the second half of that golden era of Greece qualifying for tournaments consistently, like Euro 2012, the 2014 World Cup 2010 as well. And even as far back as Euro 2008, which we weren't that great in, but that's before I was really, really into football. So yeah, we miss those times, and there's slowly but surely a generation growing up not knowing Greece qualify for tournaments, and that's a real shame because we've as bad as we've been over the last 12 years with some of the players that we've had to call up with the lack of depth we've had. We felt like this was the time where maybe things would change for us, but it's the same old story for Greece, unfortunately. But these young players especially have time. Like we have to invest in them and hope that they achieve their potential. And like I said, I trust Ivan Jovanovic. He's a very capable manager, and he's managed at the top level for a long time. And I think he's the man for the job still. Some would disagree, but that's different people's opinions, I guess.
There we go. That was where Greek expert there, Stephen. It's talking to us yesterday about the game, and he doesn't hold out much hope for Greece, but obviously he's still backing the manager, Reagan.
Yeah, I mean, the manager did say yesterday to Tom English in a press conference, he did say that he felt as if that Greece were a better team than Scotland. And I think, to be honest with you, Michael, I think they are. I think if you look at it, they probably should have beat us at Hampden. They probably should. See, if you look at that match at Hampden, I mean, we all come on and we're all slating Scotland. We won the game 3-1, remember? I mean that certainly should have been 2 or 3 goals to Greece. But I don't know, Michael, but somehow Scotland managed to get through. And I'm just hoping tonight that Steve Clarke's loyalty to players like Grant Hanley pays off, because he needs to play. He needs to play really well again tonight. Michael, I'll just go over that Scotland team for you again, okay?
Yep.
The Scotland team for tonight is Craig Gordon's in goal. You've got you've got Andy Robertson. Sorry, Michael, you've got Craig Gordon, Robertson, McTominay, Grant Hanley, John McGann, Che Adams, Christie, Sutter, Ben Gannon-Doak, Ferguson, and Aaron Hickey.
There you go. That's the Scottish team for tonight. There, yeah. I mean, it says a lot for Reagan, because you know, we're a kind of nation of passionate football fans, right? And a nation that's being Scotland. But I mean, we're still winning games, but we're still not happy as well. But, you know, and I think that's down to because Stevie Clarke doesn't play my favourite subject on the programme every week, young players. And the team, and if you look at that Greek boy at 17, you know, and you're thinking, well, you know, surely one day we're going to produce that, you know.
Yeah, but I think I heard Mike from the Daily Record. He was saying that he believed that this is our golden generation, and I tend to agree with him, Michael, because who actually is Scotland producing to be the next generation? I don't know if we've got many players. I know that's your favourite subject, and we'll not get into it because we could be here all night talking about it.
They could be here to the next Euros.
Yeah, and I don't know if we'll qualify for that, Michael, because I was hoping for 2028 that we would get through the sort of back door, because Scotland are taking part in it, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's just a shame. I think it's a very big shame that obviously the players are not there for us in the next generation. But hopefully now we can start bringing through more and more players through. But Michael, I know we're running short for time, but so who do you think is going to be the match winner for Scotland tonight?
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, I would take 3 points now, right? But obviously, if you're asking for my prediction, I would say I would.
Oh, no. So what I mean is, what player do you think will need to play well for Scotland to get a point or get a victory? What player, sorry?
I don't think it's going to one individual player, Reagan. I think in the game like this, it's a team performance as well. But I know what you mean as well. But yeah.
I think for an example for me, I think someone like Ben Gannon-Doak needs to really step up tonight and
Yeah.
possibly join McGann. Because you look at John, right? John's someone that is probably his last time to qualify for Scotland. It's a big opportunity, and I think he's someone that's not really stepped up this campaign so far. I would say, because you look at the matches in previous championships, he stepped up then, but I don't think he's really stepped up into this time for Scotland. So I'm hoping I get a big performance from John tonight. Michael, the other aspect that I know I do a lot of research for this programme, and you probably think, do you? But
More than me, yeah.
I was reading that if Ben Gannon-Doak and Aaron Hickey, if they are both booked tonight, they will miss the match against Denmark.
All right. Yeah, well, that's a bit of a blow and stuff. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you might see one of them coming off. We kind of well, see, it all depends on how the game's going for me, Reagan, as well. But obviously, Skibby Clark would need to know that, and they obviously they might know that as players as well. So they might let's hope we get a kind of like fair ref in a kind of way. But somehow I very much doubt it. By the way, if you're interested, it's Wales 1-0 against Liechtenstein away from home tonight. But the big game is in Greece against Scotland. I could wanted to ask you about the bench, Reagan, right? I know I've gone about Shankland quite a lot, so I'll give it a break this time about. But do you think there's anybody off that bench would come off and change the game for Scotland and make an impact in the game?
Well, Michael, that's a great point you make, and I'll just go through the bench again. You've got Tierney, you've got Jack Henry, you've got Barron, Scott McKenna, George Hurst, Shankland, Tony Ralston, and Kenny McLean. I think the only real one for me, Michael, would be Dykes. I think maybe Dykes and Scott McKenna, because Scott McKenna is he's pretty solid.
Yeah. No, because I think on the night like that's really the night, and say what you want about Greece, like they're out of it as well, but I mean they'll be wanting to make put in a performance festival. This is the last home game of their kind of campaign. But I think in terms of Scotland, they would have to use the whole squad in terms of like 1 to 11, but also the subs as well, because you're away from home.
Yeah, I think that's true, Michael, because I feel like this is a massive match for all the squads to really play their part, and they really need to show tonight that they've got balls of steel, because there'll be times in this match where they'll become under pressure. You know, it's not always going to be fairy tales and roses. It's going to be a challenging night for them, and they're going to be under pressure. If Scotland do go a goal or two up, that's where you need to try and use the experience that the players have got. But also, Michael, the players need to as well, as they need to take the shackles off, because if they do go out there and they approach the game like, oh, we can get a draw. Yes, of course we can accept a draw, Michael, but we want to go there and get a victory. Because
don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Scottish Football Zone, and also if you want to subscribe to the Spotify channel, you can listen to us as a podcast as well. Just search for the Scottish Football Zone on Spotify, and don't forget we'll be back at 10 o'clock tonight as well. But yeah, I mean, I think going back to the game tonight, Reagan, I think when we talk about Scotland, I always say, hopefully we'll put on a good performance and a good show. It's going to be difficult away from home, but you never know. but I think it's going to put Scottish football on the map because apart somebody this week, a guy called Jamie, I've never heard of him on Sky. A wee dig at him there was making fun of kind of like Scottish football a wee bit, and it's kind of time for the cricket's back.
Yeah, I think it is, Michael. I think the problem is that Scottish football takes a battering, but these people don't actually watch the Scottish football, Michael. So I don't really take what they say to heart, because I think he's just trying to play to the gallery, because he knows that if he says their opinions, he's going to be continued to get paid for it. You know.
It's right bizarre to believe, Reagan, like, because I know that we've got a couple of games away, and obviously we need to get a result tonight and a result on Tuesday night and a better performance, because we haven't been playing well of late recently, even though we've got wins. But I think as well that Stevie Clark will go down in history if we make it to the World Cup by getting to us 2 Euros back to back and a World Cup as well. Yet some of the fans aren't happy with him.
Yeah, Michael, I think he'll be the probably the greatest manager for Scotland so far. I think someone that I spoke to a number of times, I know he was on the Scottish Football Zone as well before, Craig Brown. We spoke to him, remember, Michael? We spoke to him many years ago.
Yeah.
He was on the show, and obviously it was great to speak to him for a few times, wasn't it, Michael?
Yeah, nice guy, Craig, yeah.
He was a great man to speak to, and it was so good to get him on the show. And I mean, obviously he's the best Scotland manager so far. But if Steve Clark can get us the World Cup and 2 Euros, then you've got to say fair play to him. Because as much as I'm a critic of Steve Clark, as you guys will know, but I feel like if he does manage to get us to the Euros and the World Championship over in America, then you've got to say fair play to him.
Ethan, how are you?
Yeah, good. Excited for a massive night ahead for Scotland, and just hoping that they can give us that chance to go to Hampden on Tuesday with the hope that.
Sorry, on you go, Ethan.
No, I was just going to say with the hope for the people that are going, the 50,000 Scotland fans going, that there is a chance, Reagan, one of them, to witness history under Steve Clark and these players. He's already created two massive points of that, as I think we're just mentioned with the European Championships. Now we need to go one step further in the World Cup, and the chance it's in Scotland's hands, and just hopefully they go over to Piraeus tonight and get a result. They don't need to win. That shouldn't be the message that Steve Clark's sending to the players. He should be saying, right, you need to go and beat this lot. You've shown you can do it. Although I think Greece have shown that they're a solid team. They have nothing to play for. Whether that makes it easier or more difficult for Scotland, we'll see. But yeah, I'm confident Scotland will put in a good performance tonight. I think we're due a good performance with how they've played lately, and hopefully they can get the result necessary over there and carry confidence into Tuesday night's game, which hopefully will be a massive showdown.
So have you heard the lineup? Even obviously me and Michael's been on for a good half an hour now, but have you heard the lineup?
Yeah, I've got the lineup here for Scotland. So in goals, he does opt to go with the experience of the 42-year-old Craig Gordon. There was a debate there, obviously, with Angus Gunn out injured. It's a back four by the looks of it, of Andy Robertson, Grant Hanley, John Souttar and Aaron Hickey. And then a midfield sort of five of John McGinn, Lewis Ferguson, Scott McTominay, Ryan Christie and Ben Gannon-Doak, with Shea Adams leading the line. And then on the bench, Kelly, Bain, McKenna, Tierney, Hendry, Ralston, McLean, Barron, Irvin, Hurst, Shankland and Dykes.
I mean, I was saying to Michael, Ethan, do you feel like that's the right choice from Steve Clark in terms of playing Craig?
It might have been in the minority, but I would have went for Scott Bain just because he's played this season. And I know it's a crazy thing to think maybe at the start of this season, third choice goalkeeper at Celtic would be starting for Scotland in a match of this magnitude. But I think if you look at the lack of how much Kelly's obviously second choice at Rangers, Craig Gordon's arguably third choice at Hearts. I just think that Scott Bain's the active goalkeeper. He's been the one that's been playing pretty well for Falkirk as well. So I probably would have went for him, but I understand why Steve Clark's went with Craig Gordon. He's obviously put a lot of faith in him in the past, and he should be a safe hands in goals for Scotland despite his age.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to get your thoughts then, because you say you're pretty confident. I'm sweating right now. It's 25 minutes. 25 minutes to kick off. You know, I've got my jacket on here and I'm sweating, but I'm just interested to see where your confidence comes from.
I don't know where it comes from. I think it possibly comes from a place of knowing that Scotland don't need to go over there and win the game. And usually Scotland are quite good at that when the pressure's not on. I mean, the pressure isn't on Greece either, because obviously they're already out. The only pressure that's on them is to really right the wrongs of their previous matches against us and Denmark in this group, short group. But I just don't see Scotland go. Famous last words here. I just don't see Scotland going over there and losing. But I know that's a very realistic possibility. But no, I just think Scotland are due a performance. The players will step up, knowing the magnitude of what's at stake, and they'll get the result needed. I'm not saying it's going to be a good performance by Scotland. I'm not saying it's going to be pretty, because it hasn't been for the duration of this campaign. But I think we should have enough to go over there and get the result. And then for the Greece team, in goals is Vlachodimos, a back four of Tsimikas, who scored in the reverse fixture, I believe, the opening goal at Hampden. Koulirekas, Retsos, Vagianidis, midfield two of Kurbelis and Mouzakitis, attacking three of Cholis, who's their main man, Christos Cholis, the Club Brugge winger, and then the captain Bakasetas, and the other winger is Konstantinos Karetsas, the 17-year-old who starred in that thrashing of Scotland at Hampden in the Nations League playoff. And then up front is the Benfica striker Vangelis Pavlidis. On the bench for Greece, Ivan Jovanovic, the Serbian manager, who said that Greece were a better team than Scotland. I'm sure you've seen that.
You actually surprised, because I spoke to a few journalists yesterday, right, who were actually saying to me that they felt like Greece were going to maybe not play as many big players because they're already out.
Yeah, I think there is possibly a case of that in a few positions. Maybe midfield is the two sort of sitting midfielders are more unfamiliar, but apart from that, it's a pretty much a full strength team. And Vlachodimos in goals instead of Chilakis is maybe another one, but I think they also want to prove what the manager said, that they've been really unlucky in this campaign, because I think.
I mean, I said to Michael earlier, I don't know if you were watching him, but I said that Greece should have probably won at Hampden as well.
Yeah, they definitely should have, and I think the 3 times we've played them recently, although we've won twice, once home, once away, could argue they've been the better team in all 3 matches, and it's just not really went their way. Obviously, they had really tough games against Denmark as well, so they want to sort of prove and sort of end Scotland's party as well. So on the bench, I'll just run through their bench quickly. Mandas, Tuzlakis, Mikelidis, Rota, Hatzidiagos, Kostulas, Siopis, Triantis, obviously former Hibs, now at Minnesota in the MLS, Mantalos, Tete, and Masouras. So that's the Greece squad for the game, but hopefully the Scotland players make whoever's playing for Greece irrelevant, because I think if Scotland turn up, then they should
guys are doing next week. I don't know what you guys are doing next week, but I think if Scotland qualify, we should all go for a wee Greek meal just to say thank you to Greece for getting us through. There's a lot of Greek places in Glasgow we can go to.
Yeah, no, I might have to phone my cousin and thank his wife as well, because obviously, like, she's from Greece as well. But even I was just saying to Reagan as well, it's bizarre to think that I know Scotland fans get carried away with ourselves, and we do as well. But obviously, we're a couple of games away from the World Cup. About if we get a point tonight and we can start the party and all that. But it's bizarre to think that Stevie Clark will go down in history to get us to a World Cup. But it'll go down in history. But yet, a lot of fans don't like the way he plays.
Yeah, definitely, and it's the great debate that we've got as Scotland fans that whether we see past the poor performances of these 4 group games so far, if the results are there, which they have been, and I don't think anyone will care how we've performed if we get the 4 points needed over these next 2 games. Obviously, the point tonight and then the 3 against Denmark, which will certainly be an even more difficult task than tonight will be. But yeah, it will be interesting because if we get to the World Cup, what will the reaction be? Will people be confident that Steve Clarke can go and right his wrongs of the 2 European Championship campaigns, which were disasters, to be nice? So yeah, it'll be interesting, but just hoping that Scotland can do it and bring joy to the nation of a World Cup that we've not seen in nearly 3 decades.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's because, Reagan, I'm getting one over you and Ethan and maybe the other guys on the show, because I've only saw Scotland get a World Cup before, but you guys haven't.
No, I was still well. I was born in 1998, but I was born in September rather than June, so I was still growing.
You were kind of winter, you were kind of summer baby, as well. That's enough about that. And let's move on swiftly. Ethan, get me back to the football, please, as well. But yeah, I mean, it's just get exciting that we are waiting for the Scotland game to come on, and we come on at 10 o'clock after the game, hopefully, with a victory. But I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I would bite your hand off at a point there now.
Yeah, exactly. I think ideally we go over there and win 3-0, and we take massive confidence into the game on Tuesday. But if you had to ask me, would you take a good performance and a defeat, or a terrible performance and a draw? Then I think it's not even a debate, really, is it? We need a point, and that's all we need. And hopefully this game could just be one that we get what's needed and we forget about it and then move on to Tuesday.
The other thing is, could you imagine if Scotland get beaten in Belarus beat Denmark? Oh, that'd be crazy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be crazy. I don't think we should be counting on that, though, because Belarus, although they nearly gave us a scare at Hampden, I don't see them getting close to Denmark tonight. I think Denmark will probably extend their massive goal difference advantage over Scotland, and maybe had we played better in those 2 games against Belarus, then we wouldn't be relying on getting a point tonight. But obviously we do, because if it was to come down to goal difference, then it's not even going to be comparable between us and Denmark.
No, and I think for once, I'll actually be hoping that Smilenko is a very bad match, as he often does for Celtic. I just hope he puts a few of the balls in the back of the net.
Yeah, hopefully. I hopefully, but I don't. Belarus probably won't have a shot. Like I said before the recent game that.
Sorry, Ethan, I'm meaning on Monday night.
Oh, all right, okay. On Tuesday, yeah. No, yeah, hopefully.
So I mean, I know that you've got to get going in a few minutes, Reagan, just to get your pies in and your kilt on and all that, and to set up your bagpipes tonight, and stuff like that. So what's your score prediction before you go?
I'm going to go 2-2, but I hope I'm wrong. Hope it's a 3-0 victory, but I think 2-2.
2-2. All right, okay. Yeah, we'll get Ethan's before we can go off, and we'll be back on at 10 o'clock. Don't forget, we'll be here on Tuesday night for another, I'm going to call this a cup final, guys, right? The winner takes all at Hampden Park on Tuesday night. Scotland against Denmark will be on at 7:15, and we'll be back on at 10 o'clock. And if we win again, we won't see Reagan this side of Christmas, I don't think, as well, because they'll be drinking a lot of pies. Drinking a lot of pies, I don't know. Eat a lot of pies and drinking a lot of pies as well, yeah, as well. So, yeah, that the countdown continues to the game, Ethan, and I'm getting really excited because obviously you guys is not worrying about to see Betty Volts, these brilliant football teams, but it was really like a hard stretch to what Scotland back in the days, and yet, as I say, it's a joy to get Scotland on the cusp of the World Cup, but also it's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, definitely. Still a lot of work to be done. 2 massive games, 2 massive 90 minutes. Obviously, just a point needed tonight. Sometimes going into those games where you need just a point, then it can be a wee bit strange how the team plays and stuff like that. How do you motivate the players, knowing that you don't need to throw everything at it to get a winner, but also it's difficult to play for a draw. So I would say to the players, just play with caution, but go out there and try and win the match. And then obviously, hopefully, it will be a showdown where if we beat Denmark like we did a few years ago, and a game that meant less at the time, a lot less than we will be in the World Cup draw. So, yeah, just hoping that Scotland can get there. And, you know, we're in a great position compared to where we were following that Nations League tie against Greece, where a lot of people sort of had wrote off this World Cup campaign or before it had even started with how poorly we played in those games. And now we're talking about being just 4 points and 2 games away from going to a World Cup. Possibly, well, the closest we've been to getting a World Cup until the last World Cup there, where we obviously crashed out in the playoffs at home against Ukraine. Hopefully we avoid the playoffs because it's not a very easy way to get into the tournament, especially with some of the teams that are going to be dropping in there. So it's in our hands. We've got a very doable task for this Scotland team tonight. Not an easy one by any means, but one that I think the players and manager are well capable of. And then we need to show that we can beat these teams to get to tournaments. And if we do beat Denmark, then we deserve to go to the World Cup, and hopefully we do. But still a long way to go, and a lot of football to be played, as you said.
Yeah, no. How's the nerves, Reagan?
No, the nerves are bad right now, to be honest. I'm sweating, Michael. I'm thinking about being on here at 10 o'clock and being disappointed, but I'm hoping I'm wrong. But I just don't know. I'm not able to trust Steve Clark in these away matches. I'm just hoping that he is generally going to try and be attacking, because I think if he becomes very defensive, then again, I think it'll be a very long night.
Yeah, certainly could be. That's the thing. You need to not invite pressure on yourselves, and I don't want to see Scotland sitting in everybody behind the ball waiting for the inevitable to happen if Greece scoring, and then we need to go and get a goal. Just start on the front foot. Not saying throw everything at it, but play the way you would play in the earlier group games. Distract yourself from the fact that we only need a point. Try and go for the win. Take massive confidence into that Denmark game, because they'll be confident. They've won every game pretty convincingly since they obviously drew us in the opening game. That was under a new manager. The manager seems to be becoming more familiar with the players and so on. So I think Denmark have only been getting better throughout this campaign, and you can maybe say it was lucky the time we played them before. So we'll need to be the team that steps in their way of getting to that World Cup, and it'll be difficult, but you give yourself a chance tonight if you get the result necessary.
Do you think it's a case of, Ethan, that obviously Greece hasn't got anything to play for, but I mean that kind of might backfire on Scotland, because they said, well, let's go out we're out of the World Cup, the pressure's off a wee bit as well. But in terms of for Scotland away from home in that hostile atmosphere, do you think it will be a case of when we do these kind of shows and European games, I always talk about keeping the game in stage. Do you think Scotland will kind of like do that as well? I mean, how How do you think that they'll set up?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm not sure how they'll set up. I think Steve Clarke will probably set. Were you asking about Scotland or Greece setting up, or both?
Yeah, Scotland, yeah.
Scotland. Yeah, I think they'll probably set up this same way that Steve Clarke has set them up for the other games. Defence first approach, try and nick a goal and hold on to a lead. I think that's very much Steve Clarke's style. And I
That
think we'll
sounds
see that again tonight.
absolute torture. That sounds absolute torture for the next 9 minutes.
Yeah, no, it probably will be. I don't think it's going to be pretty by any means, but hopefully it is. Hopefully Scotland go over there and win 3-0. But I just don't think it's really in Scotland's nature to do that. I think even when we've seen us against the sort of minnow nations like your Belaruses, we never really seem to do it comfortably. So I don't see us going over to a Greece side who want revenge and turning them over. I think they'll make it really difficult for us. They'll want to cancel our parade towards the World Cup, and yeah, it'll be a perfect opportunity for them to do that tonight if they can win. But hopefully, Steve Clarke and these players pull out the bag like they have done for the other 4 games.
I think on the TV it showed you Craig Gordon warming up there, and I think if you're a Scotland fan at the game or maybe at the pub and watch that on the telly, you feel kind of more safer than Scott Bain. I know that you might be against me on that point, but I mean that there's a bit of calmness to Craig Gordon. I know what people are saying. And I know what you're saying because they might be, because they've not been playing a lot this season. But it just brings his kind of like experience as well. And obviously, when you talk about experience, you've always also got to think about Hearts in Europe and also Celtic in the Champions League when Gordon was there as well. So it comes with all that kind of like experience.
Yeah, of course. He's played he's played obviously nearly 100 games for Scotland. Not quite nearly 100, but the best part of 100 games for Scotland, one of the leading cap holders. And obviously, as you mentioned, a lot of experience over his spells at Celtic and the Champions League and Europa League as well. So Scott Bain and Liam Kelly obviously come with less experience, and that's why Craig Gordon's in goals. He's a man that Steve Clarke's trusted in the past, and he's had about 3 or 4 different retirement campaigns for the national team, send-offs and whatever. I remember before the European Championships, the last ones I believe it was, where we played Finland in a friendly and he came off the bench and it looked like it was going to be a farewell sort of night for him. And then obviously he's back here, 2 years on nearly probably, to try and help Scotland get to another tournament. And yeah, I think it's credit to Craig Gordon as well that he's kept himself healthy for all these years. He's had massive injuries to tackle in the past. Obviously, had his double leg break. I think he had another really significant injury towards the end of his career as well. So, no, a lot of credit to him, and hopefully he can keep a clean sheet tonight, because ultimately that's all we need tonight. Clean sheet will see us through to the last game, which, as you made it out, is going to be like a cup final. Obviously, Denmark will come into the game with the advantage that they don't need to win it probably, but they also need to avoid losing it. And if Scotland can get an early goal and get the Hampden crowd behind them, then it'll be a really difficult night for Denmark. But yeah, we need to deal with this one first, and hopefully they play us, and they should be good enough to go out and get a result against the Greece side, which are probably low on confidence and a little bit on the floor, because I think they would have been really confident coming into this campaign, especially after defeating us at Hampden 3-0 in that Nations League playoff, relegation, whatever you want to call it, and then beaten comfortably by us at Hampden somehow, and then beaten comfortably in both times by Denmark. So yeah, they'll come with vengeance and attempt to spoil our party, but Scotland should have enough in the tank to make sure that the party goes on and we continue our hope, and probably inevitably fail at the final hurdle, but at least give the chance to those 50,000 Scotland fans going to Hampden Park on Tuesday to to hope that they can be part of history.
It's funny when you mentioned Craig Gordon. They're like, I remember like famous bands that I know that coming to the High Road and that they're thinking, well, this is a farewell tour, and then they come out next year as well, and that's a bit like Craig Gordon when they came on against Finland at Hampden, but and they got a standing ovation as well, and then secondly he's back, so it's like it's a boy band making a final appearance.
Yeah, it just seems like he's never going to go. I think he'll get to 2 World Cup campaigns down the line, and we'll still be talking about a 50-year-old Craig Gordon sitting up for Scotland in a time of need. But it is a problem position for us. Obviously, with Angus Gunn out, he's not been playing much this season anyway at Nottingham Forest. Obviously, got that ACL injury, which puts him out for the season, which is really unfortunate for him on a personal level, and obviously the national team as well. But yeah, by demand, Craig Gordon comes in and just hoping that he doesn't make any errors and he leaves his illustrious Scotland legacy in a positive note, because I don't think he's going to play much. I don't imagine he's going to play many more games, but then again, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in that squad for the World Cup if we do make it. So yeah, and I think the other problem areas that I'm maybe a little bit concerned about is Grant Hanley. I think I've shared my thoughts on here before, although his recent performances for Scotland have been better. I just feel like there's always a mistake that can happen with him, and I'm just hoping that it doesn't happen tonight. And then the striker position, I don't mind Shea Adams starting, but I think a lot of people would have wanted to see Lawrence Shankland come in with the form he's carried in the Scottish Premiership so far this season, with Hearts obviously at the top of the league. But I understand why Shea Adams is the one who's got the nod, because he has been one of Scotland's best players, I would probably say, across this campaign. And yeah, but I think that's a debate for after the game if it doesn't go well. Ultimately, if Scotland get the result needed tonight, then credit to Steve Clarke for getting the selection right. But I think we know where the conversation will be going if that's not the case.
Talking about after the game, we'll be on at 10 o'clock. Before we let you go, Ethan, to get your kilt on for the game as well, what's your prediction what's your score prediction for the game?
I'm going to go for a terribly boring and nail-biting nothing each straw, which sees Scotland through to the last game needing a win.
That will do. Well, I might go one bit, but they will be goals. But I think it will be a Desmond, as I say. I think it will be one each in the game, and the one that takes on Tuesday as well. But before we get there, we've got the game tonight against Greece to look forward to. What we're about 50 minutes away from kickoff. I think Reagan's away at the toilet. As well. The nerves are getting to the better of him, I think. By the way, that was a joke. Reagan's okay. But we'll be back at 10 o'clock to look back at the post-mortem of the game, or maybe not a post-mortem, maybe a brilliant night, maybe Greece lightning tonight in Greece. I don't know. But thanks to Ethan for joining us tonight. Me and Ethan and Reagan, as he comes back down from the sailing at 10 o'clock, will be on for the post-match Greece against Scotland in this World Cup qualifying. Don't forget, you can subscribe to the channel. It is the Scottish Football Zone, and you can subscribe to the Spotify, because if you don't want to watch us and see us and see how we look, why not? Because two handsome men now, and well, you can give listen to us as well. That's okay, but watching this is better. So subscribe to the channels, and we'll see you at 10 o'clock here on the Scottish Football Zone.
A Scottish Football Zone special following Scotland in World Cup qualifying.